you wait if you disagreed with the special administrative order? Why didn't you file a grievance? And there's a jury with her life in her hand. And Lynn says, well, I have this friend named Mumia Abu Jamal. With your life at stake, she talks to the jury about a friend of hers who is a convicted murderer, in quotes. And she said, and the government opened up his mail, and he had to file a suit for the right to have correspondence with his attorney secret, and he had to wait 9 months, and I didn't want to wait 9 months to defend the rights of my client. Ooh. And then, when Mike Tiger, her attorney, asked her the last second on the witness stand, because Lynn passed out a press release for her client, Omar Abdel Rahman. And Mike said to her, Lynn, if you had to do it all over again, would you do the same thing? Now, any smart person would say, oh, I made a mistake. I was thinking what I was doing. But Lynn, and I was right there, with a tear rolled down her down her face, she said, I would hope, I would think I would do it again. And for that, this goddamn government put her in jail for 10 years. First 3, and then when she walked out into the street after the 27-month sentence, and the media, there were 5, how many of you were there when she walked out the first time? And the media, as a reporter said, how do you feel about 27 months? And Lynn, who had her toothpaste in a plastic bag ready to go to jail for 10 years, said, I think I can do 27 months standing on her head. And the government said, that's not what do they call it? You didn't show enough contriteness. The government, the federal government intervened, demanded that the judge re-sentence her, put the screws on her, and she gave her 10 years, which was a death sentence. And she's here today for 2 reasons. She wouldn't give up, and we didn't give up, and that's why we have a free Lynn Stewart.
Home may be the most beautiful word in the English language. I know it was to me for many years, almost 5. Home, to go home, to be home. And I know it is for my brothers and sisters who remain behind bars. All they want is to be home. So what to do? The fact that there are so many political prisoners expresses or betrays the weakness and the ineffectiveness of our movement. Except, and I am one of the exceptions, there are others, I am home. And I am home, as my dear friend and the West Coast coordinator has said, I am home because of the support and the insistence that I come home of all of you and countless others who may not be on our same page of revolutionary necessity, but who understood that this was wrongful, this was overborne, and it must be rolled back. So thousands of people signed petitions, hundreds of people came out to rallies and court events. My dear Ralph, that handsome young man, stood in front of the White House in 100-degree heat, mostly by himself, but with various groups coming to join him on certain occasions, and said, let her go home. And home I came, and I am home today. And I received a letter. Actually, Ralph received this letter because I don't communicate with political prisoners because that's part of my probation. So Ralph writes all the letters, and Ralph got a letter from Matulu Shakur.
All right!
Who only happens to be an acupuncturist who figured out a way to deal with heroin addiction, but of course they put him in jail. And also was a member of the Black Liberation Army. I think I'm free to say that. Anyway, Ralph got a letter from Matulu, and the letter said, the men who wait behind bars are waiting for us to free them. We are their only hope, and their faith is greater than any religion. Their faith in our movement. We cannot betray that faith. Pam has talked to you about Mia and his desperate situation, which we are trying to get past a point of no return. I am going to spend the rest of my time, and I tell you, I'm feeling fairly fit. My doctors say I am at a point where my cancer is not advancing. It's not retreating, but it's not advancing.
All right.
And I hope using my own daughter, our own daughter, as a foundation, Dr. Zenobia Brown, to put together a medical cadre that we could have on call. Because our political prisoners are aging. They are in desperate shape, as talked to about Dr. Siddiqui, and heard what situation she is in. And I feel that if we have a medical cadre that's willing to step in, even if it's just to read medical records, which the government and the jails must give up, that will be a step in the right direction. So, if you know a decent doctor, and that may be a, what do they call that, a contradiction, but if you know a decent doctor who might be willing to do some work for pro bono, for the good, please be in touch with me. We also need lawyers, because we have good lawyers, but not enough of them. I called a good lawyer the other day about one of the political prisoners, and she told me a number of things. She thought about the case, and then said, but of course I'll need a $50,000 retainer. I said to myself, I too was a lawyer, but there wasn't a political prisoner who could call me that I had to have a retainer for.
That's right.
I did the work. For the good of all. So we need lawyers. If you know young lawyers that want to cut their tooth on movement activities, and they write to me still and say, what do you do to be a movement lawyer? And I say, join the movement and defend it. And I'm going to talk about the no-no. The big pink elephant that sits in the room whenever we talk about political prisoners, and that is their targets were often blue. Cops. And people always say, oh, but he killed a cop. You mean it, but he killed a cop. Oh, he's convicted. That was then, this is now. When they acted out of the defense of their community, which was under attack. If you were alive in the 60s, you know what was happening in the black community. You know of the riots and the fires and the deaths of people like Clifford Glover in Jamaica, New York, a 10-year-old killed by a cop. But because the Panthers were out there, and then BLA, you know, it was remarkably quiet during those years. There were not those killings. There was another force to be contended with. So whether you believe as I do that the best defense is an offense, you must believe that these men have served more than enough time, and that if we are to ever defeat the police state, we should start with freeing political prisoners and get rid of the myth that somehow a cop's life is worth more than anybody else's. My young friend is not holding up any signs, so I definitely want to mention, any of you are in or around New York or want to come to be in and around New York on May 30th, Memorial Day weekend. Oh, it isn't the weekend, it's the week after. I got an extra minute from Mackler, he has to do that. If you're in or around New York, that's when the great march will be for Oscar Lopez Rivera. The remaining political prisoners from Puerto Rico. And they are all home, and we want to bring Oscar home. And closer at hand, for all you residents of Secaucus, closer at hand though, on the 13th of May in Philadelphia, is the commemoration of one of the most infamous acts, and there are plenty of them, the bombing of the Move family, of which Pam Africa is a member, and of which there are still 9, is it Pam, or 8? 8 Move members still in jail? 7. One passed recently, once again. We don't have the doctors that can tell us what to do in those situations yet.
Execution by medical neglect.
Probably. Medical neglect is the name of the game, and I want to say to you, I know that too. But at any rate, there is going to be a big commemoration of that date, because there's a date we should remember. I know people say, where were you when Kennedy was killed? Where were you in 9/11? But I can also remember, where was I on May 13th, 85, when the word came out about the dropping of the bomb on innocent black civilians. So if you can get to Philadelphia, by any means possible, please be there. Commemorate, show that this is a date we all recognize and understand to be important. So I said earlier that we have had successes. I'm here. I would say the fact that Russell Maroon Schultz is no longer in solitary confinement after, 25 years is a victory. I would say that there are other victories out there to be won. And we can do them. We can have little victories for people, but we can have big victories too. And I think the only thing it takes is solidarity, resistance, understanding that it cannot be neglected. This is not something to put on your back burner. These people are aging. They are sometimes, Matulu also wrote that they wanted to amputate his leg. And he said, no, you can't do that. And then they found out what was really wrong with him, and that amputation was not on the table, so as to speak. So I just want to say, we must have more than rhetoric. We must have action. If you are called upon, wherever you live, please answer. Answer that call on behalf of people who are in jail, because they believed, as many of us do, in the freedom and equality of all people. Thank you.
Lynn mentioned that there were some very important actions that we should be at, and there are many more. I wanted to let you know about the last session tomorrow. It will be an opportunity to review the action proposal that is coming forth from UNAC to the conference, and we hope with your approval that will set the tone about what we stand for, what our motivations and goals are, and to talk about the future actions, because we believe that you don't just come to a conference and just listen and learn things, which is wonderful, but you go and take action when you leave. And so that's the opportunity for everybody at, I think it's 1:30 tomorrow, and there'll be an opportunity to discuss the proposal, and I wanted to tell you that there are copies now out on the UNAC table in the corridor, and there'll be opportunities to discuss and approve or amend that resolution, and then we'll be entertaining the action plans, and if some of your actions, important actions, are left off, please bring them forward, and we can endorse all of the things that are important that are coming up and give us things that we can do concretely together. Thank you. I just want to say one more thing. The most important thing on our proposal is for actions in October, a week of actions, nationally coordinated actions in October that would deal with all the kinds of issues that we've been talking about today, that would be a unified, collective outpouring, and it just happens also to coincide with the anniversary of when we initiated this war on terror on Afghanistan, and it's still going on, and many, many more. So hope you can stay and be here tomorrow. Thank you.
The Grannies for Peace, Granny Peace Brigade is going to sing a song. There were a few members of them. If you guys would like to come up now, we'll set you up. One of them here is Lillian Pollock, who you should know last month celebrated her 100th anniversary, her 100th year. As was mentioned during our first session, some of the anti-war and social justice groups from